You know, I'm a 9-year-old kid inside, and my passion has been all my life to want to travel into space. I drank that Kool-Aid, I got that bug as a kid. I saw Apollo going on TV. I was born in '61, and I believed it was going to happen. I believed that we were, once we got to the moon, there was no stopping us. But in fact, we did stop. And, it's been literally 40 years since we've been to the lunar surface. And I ended up realizing that NASA was unlikely to get me into space or get me to the moon or beyond. And I needed some other way to drive this. And I became very much, if I have to describe myself, I'm a sort of a libertarian capitalist, and I was looking for what's the economic engine that's going to drive us into space. So I received a book one day from a great friend of mine, Greg Marinak, called The Spirit of St. Louis, that tells the story of Lindbergh. And I had no idea that Lindbergh crossed the Atlantic to win a prize. I thought he woke up one day and just decided to go east. But in fact, there was this Frenchman born in Paris, came to New York, with pennies in his pocket. Raymond Ortega was his name, became a busboy, moved up, eventually bought the hotel he worked at, started a second hotel. And just after World War I, when aviation just started getting going, he became enamored by this idea of aviation, and he decided to put up a prize for the first person that could go nonstop between his birthplace and his new home, in either direction. But if you knew about the trade winds, you'd go east. And as it turned out, 9 different teams from around the world, mostly the US, mostly France, went after this. And the 9 teams spent $400,000 to win this $25,000 prize. 16 times the prize money. I'm going, oh my God, and I'm making notes in the margins about how much money is being spent. Admiral Byrd, the first guy to fly to the North Pole, for example, spends $100,000 to try and win this $25,000 prize, and he crashes on takeoff because he overweights his airplane with champagne in China to celebrate when he lands in Paris, as if there would be no champagne in China in Paris when he gets there. And the most unlikely guy to do this, Charles Lindbergh, who'd been flying the mail for just a handful of years, makes this effort. No one would sell him an airplane. No one would sell him an engine because he was unproven. Who is this guy? I mean, for God's sakes, we don't know who he is. I'm not going to, he's going to kill himself and set back aviation a decade. Well, of course, he does just the opposite. He makes the flight. 33 and a half hours later, he lands in Le Bourget, and he becomes famous overnight. And still today, all school kids know his name. But what hit me was not the efficiency of this prize, which was amazing, right? You put up $25,000, you get $400,000 spent to win it. But that within 18 months of Lindbergh making this flight across the Atlantic, something miraculous happens. We go from, in 1927, where there was 6,000 paying passengers in all of the United States, and people who flew in airplanes were called aeronauts and daredevils. This is Eric Lindbergh, Charles' grandson, who's a great friend on our board of trustees, who tells a story. Went from being aeronauts and daredevils, 6,000 of them, to 18 months later, where they were passengers and pilots, and there were 180,000 of them. This 30-fold increase. This prize caused this, dramatic change in the paradigm. And that inspired me to create the Ansari X Prize for spaceflight. And so that's how it got started. So one of my goals is to reinvent philanthropy. Today philanthropy is a very unsophisticated, old world process where, people who make a shitload of money go and give it away. And, when they're making their money, they're focused on 10x, 100x returns on the dollar. Every dollar they use has got to be basically leveraged. But when they go and they give their money away, they're happy with 30 cents on the dollar, 10 cents. Oh, they really tried hard. Too bad they didn't do it. That's ridiculous. You should command and demand the tenfold leverage on your dollars when you give it away as well. So we look for areas that are stuck, where there's a stigma, where there is, people have given up that there can be a solution for it. In the space business, space had gotten very much to be the aerospace industry. This is something that governments only do, and it's for the Boeings and the Lockheeds and the Northrops and so forth. And there's no way these small companies could do it. The automotive industry in the same way. So these industries have become old age and they become, osteophyte. They can't innovate themselves out of a paper bag sometimes. This is where putting up a clearly defined, measurable prize that says to the world, I don't care where you've gone to school, what you've ever done, you do this and you win. And it brings really orthogonal thinking to the table. People who don't have the degrees, people who would never get a National Science Foundation grant because they don't have the imprimatur or haven't done the research, but they may have the most brilliant idea because they're not stuck in the way they think. It was Henry Ford who said, an expert is someone who can tell you exactly how something can't be done. And that's true. We bring prizes together in a number of different ways. First of all, we have our board of trustees who we've built very carefully. It's a large number of really self-made innovators. Larry Page, Dean Kamen, Elon Musk, Ratan Tata from India, the Ansari family that funded our first Ansari X Prize. Incredible individuals. And then we have our Vision Circle, which are our largest benefactors. These are individuals like Sergey Brin and Eric Schmidt, again, the Ansari family, Stu Blusson. And these two groups, our Board of Trustees and our Vision Circle members, get together twice a year with us, and we have a visioneering session. And for 2 days, we debate and we discuss what are the world's biggest problems, where are they stuck, from diagnosing tuberculosis in 3 hours in remote areas to diagnosing cancer early to mapping the ocean floor or trying to deal with the ocean plastics issue or reinventing education. And we debate and we discuss what would make a great X Prize. We have our X Prize labs. We have an X Prize lab at MIT, at USC, at University of Washington, and IIT Bombay. And these are interdisciplinary graduate level programs where young students who don't know what's not possible come up and say, let's create an X Prize around this area. And then the staff, the senior staff that really is constantly thinking. So whenever I'm meeting somebody, I'm interviewing them and saying, what do you think a great X Prize would be? And brainstorming it with over lunch. So that's sources for ideas. At the end of the day, the people who end up funding our prizes are corporations and philanthropists. And they end up literally, if you're a venture capitalist, you're interested in moving a technology forward, you've got to choose your horse ahead of time. So if you're interested in water technology, energy technology, you get to choose between the 3 or 4 companies that you have insight into. And you have to make a bet on them before they prove anything out. And you don't know about the other 100 out there that might have much better technology. And it seems really silly to me to do it that way. When you put up a large incentive prize, you get the entire world, so it pulls out of the woodwork all 100 companies, and you get to see them all. And you automatically back the winner. So, for me, it's a very logical, it's highly leveraged, typically 10 to 50-fold the amount of money you put up, you get spent by the teams to win it. You're creating brand new industry, and you have full industry insight. And in the winning of the prize, you create a brand new marketplace that then is buying the product that you incentivized in the first place. Paul Allen, who backed Burt Rutan, in a recent interview with Dave Moore, who ran Paul Allen's venture here, Dave said that Paul Allen invested somewhere between $20 and $30 million, and that he got probably 5 or 10x the money back by backing it in terms of the licensing rights and the tax deferrals and the technology they developed and the media and so forth. So in this time when money is tighter and tighter and tighter, we believe that incentive prizes are an extraordinarily efficient way for companies to drive breakthroughs in their industry You've got companies like Netflix and Cisco and others creating incentive prizes inside their company or in their area to drive, to say, ask yourself the question, do you have the smartest people in the world working for your company? And if you do, you're lucky. But if you don't, put up the incentive. We get what we incentivize, and cast it out to the world. And have someone who's absolutely brilliant, who's a 22-year-old in India, who says, what about this way? And who revolutionizes the way you do business. We become stuck in the way we think. We have to. We, as the leader in the field, has been doing what they do all of their lives. And when someone comes in with something that is extraordinarily risky, they have a lot to lose. And so their willingness to take the risk is very low. But when you bring people in who've got nothing to lose, they're literally willing to risk their lives, that's where breakthroughs come in. The day before something is truly a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea. So the question companies have to ask, or governments have to ask, is where do we allow crazy ideas to bubble up? Because if there's a failure, what happens? Someone gets blamed. There's a lawsuit. There's a congressional investigation. And so those things shut down the creative engine. One of the people who have a tremendous level of gratitude for and excitement about is Ratan Tata, the chairman of Tata Industries. They give out an award every year for the team in their company that took the biggest risks. That's going to drive innovation. So you get what you incentivized. And I do believe that the best way to predict the future is to invent it yourself. So that's what we do. We drive people to invent the future they want to create by incentivizing it.